Welcome to the course of Mastering SQL Server Integration Services from scratch. My name is Kameshwar Sharma. I'm a Microsoft Certified Trainer for more than 10 years, and I'm also a Microsoft Certified Database Administrator. Now let's have a quick look at the course outline. This is the plan I have for this course, and I have divided this entire course into 24 different sections. In the very first section, I'll explain to you how we have to install the prerequisites for this course. The prerequisites are like SQL Server 2016, and then you have to install SQL Server data tools, and also you have to set up some sample databases. All that is being discussed in the section 1. And in section 2, we'll start migrating data in a very basic manner. Like for example, we want to move data from SQL Server to a flat file or SQL Server to Excel and vice versa. And from section 3 onwards, I have covered various transformations like character map, which is used for changing the casing. Like copy column is purely meant for kind of creating alias columns for you. And also we have derived columns for creating computed columns. And if you want to select the records randomly, we can use percentage sampling or row sampling transformations. And in the next section, I have discussed how we can sort or how we can combine data from multiple data sources using union all, and also how we can distribute the data to multiple destinations using multicast. And also we have discussed conditional split in the same section, which helps us to split the records and pass them on to different destinations. Also, I have discussed about the aggregate transformations, which is pretty much like group by in your regular SQL Server. And in section 5, I have discussed the audit transformation and also export column. So what if, for example, you have a very large column in your SQL Server and then you want to export that data to your file system, or you have a file on the file system and you want to import that onto SQL Server. So that's been discussed in section 5. And then I have discussed about the merge and merge join transformations and the differences between them. And in the next section, I have discussed about the lookup transformation, which is pretty much like equi-join for us, and how we can improvise the performance of the lookup with the help of the cache transform has been discussed in section 6. And then how to handle the bad data using fuzzy lookup and how to remove the unwanted duplicates using the fuzzy grouping transformations. So this is what we have discussed in section 6. So we'll continue to work with the data flow transformations in the 7th section as well as in the 8th section. Like we'll see how to work with the row count, OLEDB command transformation, and pivot and unpivot transformations. In section 8, I'll show you how we can work with the term extract and term lookup transformations. And from section 9 onwards, we'll be working with the control flow activities like bulk insert. So what if you want to insert multiple records into the destination in a bulk manner? So that's where we use the bulk insert. And we use sequence container for grouping our activities. And we'll also see how to use the execute process task to run any third-party exe files. And we'll also see how we can call one SSIS package from another SSIS package using execute package task. And in section 10, we will work with the file system, which will basically help us to do the different operations that we normally do in a Windows Explorer. And then we will see how we can communicate with the web service from our SSIS package and how we can retrieve the data what web service returns back to us. And then we'll see how we can work with the XML task, dealing with the XML files. And also we'll talk about the data profiling task, which helps us to analyze the data and present the report in a nice graphical format. And in section 11, I'll be discussing various transfer tasks we have. We have approximately some 8 to 9 tasks, which is what is being covered in the section 11. Like if you want to transfer database from one SQL Server to another SQL Server, or if you want to transfer the stored procedures or some specific objects of your SQL Server, we can use the transfer task, and that's been discussed in section 11. In section 12, I have dedicated this section especially for the for loop container. So wherein I'll show you how we can use the for loop in a fixed manner as well as in a variant manner. And we will also discuss about the for each loop container and its various enumerators. In section 13, I'll explain to you how to use configuration files and tables to make our packages bit dynamic. So wherein you can supply some values to our packages with the help of the configurational files or configuration tables. And in the next section, I'll show you how we can make our connection managers be dynamic, or how we can make our package tasks also as dynamic. And in section 15, I have discussed about how to handle the events. So it can be like different types of events. Like for example, you want to run something before you actually run the specific task, or you want to run something after the task gets executed, or you want to do something when an error occurs in your package. So that's where event handling will help us. And in the next section, I have discussed the different log providers what SSIS is offering to us. Like you can log your operations to XML files, or you can log it to the Windows event log, or you can log it to the SQL Server database, or you can log it to some flat file text files. And in section 17, I have discussed about the Windows management instrumentation tasks like WMI data reader we have, and also we have WMI event watcher task, and those two have been discussed in the section 17. In section 18, I have discussed about the MSM task, which is meant for message queue task, and with this we can pass messages between two different SSIS packages. And in section 19, I have discussed approximately some 8 to 9 maintenance plan tasks. Like for example, you want to perform some kind of backup of your database, you can do that. So normally the SSIS administrators will be mostly dealing with the maintenance plan tasks, unlike the SSIS developers. And in section 20, I have discussed about the checkpoints. So checkpoints basically helps us to run the package from the position from where it is supposed to. So imagine you have an SSIS package with 10 activities and 9 activities were successful, but the 10th one has failed. So in that case, when you fix that issue at the 10th activity, and then when you rerun the package, it is supposed to start from the 10th activity of that package rather than starting all over from the first activity. So that's where checkpoints helps us, and that has been discussed in section 20. In section 21, I have discussed about various data sources and data destinations what SSIS is offering to us. For example, we can use an XML data source, or you can use a raw file data source, or you can use a data reader destinations, and so on. So all those things have been discussed in section 21. In section 22, I have shown you how we can do incremental loading using a manual approach. And then in section 23, we took help of the CDC components. So these change data capture components are pretty new from SQL Server 2012 onwards. So wherein we have CDC sources, CDC control tasks, and CDC splitters. So all these activities were used in the section 23. And finally, we end this course by learning about the deployment techniques. So we'll see how we can deploy our SSIS packages to SQL Server Integration Services catalog, and how we can execute the packages manually, or how we can execute the packages with the help of a scheduler, or how we can execute the packages with TSQL as well.